Hey, what's going on, everybody? Locked On Badgers. It's official visit season. We had a big one last weekend. We got another big one this weekend. We're going to break it down. Who do you need to know about? Who is maybe on the verge of committing? And who's the most important commit coming to Madison this weekend?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is good, everybody? Ryan Herrings, your host of Locked On Badgers. As always, appreciate everybody tuning in, making this one of your first stops of the day. Available on YouTube, podcasts, wherever you can find it as we build this community. We have Ben from Wisconsin Sports Heroics on today with Sports Heroics. We've had him on the show before, and I really am excited to bring him back in. I'll bring him in here. Here we go. Hey, what's up, Ben?
Hey, what's going on, Ryan?
I'm excited to have you on. It's another big weekend of recruiting visits. Obviously, last weekend was probably a little bigger, but a lot of big time players back on campus. A couple commits back on campus this weekend. So definitely want to chop it up with you on that. And let's just get into it. I kind of want to start with. I'm going to kick it over to you. Who are maybe the top two players in your mind that are the headliners coming to Madison this weekend?
Sure. I think the big one, first off, would be Braden Marshall, cornerback out of Florida. Rivals has him as a 4-star. 24/7 Sports has him as a 3-star, high 3-star at that. Just a guy that has a lot of big schools that are out there looking at him. So it's an important group to kind of target, especially because I view corner as kind of a group where Wisconsin needs to load back up on, especially just with where they're at with their depth. Just having more guys in the room would be great. And from what I see from Marshall, he's just one of those players that you want to have in your group. Probably the next big one, it's kind of a toss-up. I'm going to go with Jamel Howard out of Marist, which is in Chicago, Illinois. Big dude. D-lineman, 6'3", 320 pounds. Just a player that could really make a difference. And I think it's something that Wisconsin could use, especially more D-line help. He just brings a raw talent with big power and capability. So I'm excited for both of those guys coming onto campus.
No, it's funny. If I was there, I would give you a hug, man. I'm going to do it virtually because you picked the two guys. You picked the two guys I was most excited about as well. And I'm actually going to start with Howard. Again, Illinois, another kid from that area that we kind of have talked about that several times, hitting Illinois really hard. But the big thing with Howard, and you mentioned it too, 6'3", 320. I don't think we got a guy on the roster that can replace Keanu Benton. Sorry, I think my mic is down here. I'm just going to bring it back up to make sure everyone can hear me well. But I don't think we got that guy on the roster. That's why a guy like Howard to me is so important because I think this defense needs that. And some of the like Broderick Pierce, Mikhail Gardner, who was on last weekend. I think those guys are kind of tweeners. They're really, really good prospects, but you need a dude in the middle.
Yeah, I completely agree. Credit Wisconsin for really targeting Illinois this year. It seems like we're going to see a lot of Illinois talent either coming into Madison for visits or even committing. That's what seems to be happening. And Howard is just that, like another kid from the Illinois area out of Chicago. It's just his ability to, find a way to get after the football is incredible. His film, that's what really stands out, is his ability to just get after the football. It doesn't have to be a play where he's coming up with a sack, but even those plays where he's getting tackles for a loss, in being able to just read where the play is developing. That's what really stands out about him.
Yeah, I agree. I when I was looking at his film, I made a couple notes. One of the things I put is he's not a leaner. A lot of big guys, when you watch him play, they just lean into people. He's not a leaner. He has a swim move. He gets upfield. Like, he's an active 320 if there ever is such a thing. And the thing I always tell people about nose tackle, especially in the 3-4, because a lot of people will tell you, well, the game is transitioning to a passing game. And it is. Football is more passing now. But here's the thing in Wisconsin. Here's the thing in the Big Ten. When you need a nose tackle, you need one. Like when you play Iowa, you need one, right? When you play Michigan, you need one. So it's one of those spots where, yeah, I get it. Some of the games he's not going to play. Benton did that early in his career. But when you need that dude, you need that dude.
Yeah, it seems like nose tackle is one of those positions where Wisconsin is really starting to focus on with recruiting and figuring out where can we find the right guy to fill in those spots. I think that idea with bringing Curtis Neal for this group,
Right.
as well as what they're targeting right now, which is these big guys like Roderick Pierce, like Jamel Howard. Those are guys that Wisconsin is now viewing at a position where not only do you want to have a guy that ready to go on the roster to be available, but they want depth in that spot. And
Right.
I think that's what Wisconsin really is starting to see is maybe instead of having just one Keanu Benton, which has been, such a blessing for that team, maybe it's time where we see maybe one, two, three guys rotating in throughout the
Right.
game that can make a difference.
Right, and it can also be there as the buffer in case of injury, obviously, which Wisconsin's been pretty lucky overall with Benton. That he's been able to be pretty dependable. Let's jump back to Braden Marshall, the cornerback you mentioned first, because quite frankly, again, that's one of those spots where I did a show a couple shows ago why we struggle with Ohio State so much that got like 5,000 Ohio State fans coming in just to celebrate on our grave. But one of the big deals, and it's not this is obvious, it's cornerback play. We don't have the corners to match up. And this dude's explosive. When you watch his film, his short area quickness, Brandon Marshall is ridiculous. It jumps off the film, and you can see why, as a 5'10-ish guy, you can see why he's a borderline 4-star kid.
Yeah, I mean, not only the speed, his ability to locate the football really is what stood out to me the most. I mean, first off, just seeing him fly around the field, just being able to stick with whoever he's, being matched up with. It could be a receiver that's bigger than him. He's going to find a way just to stay steady with him. And then for him to find and be able to locate where the football is, and then to take the angles where he needs to make that play. That's just to me a kid that has not only got the athletic ability to play, but also, that the football knowledge that sometimes is hard for kids to grow into. And he seems like a kid that not only already has it, but is going to just only get better as time goes on.
Yeah, it looks like he has the feel, right? Like it looks like he's a natural out there. He's not just some athlete that's running around. He's a track guy. He looks like a football player who's also could go run track, and that there's a difference there.
Yeah.
I want to touch on this too, and kind of finish up on these first two here. Do you have a feel on either of them in which way they're leaning? Does it feel like either of these recruitments, in your opinion, could come to an end soon, or is this going to draw out a little bit with these guys?
Yeah, I know like Howard has a prediction in on 24/7 Sports. A lot of high confidence for Wisconsin. Evan Flood put that on there, so that's already huge in itself to have that prediction on there. I know he took a visit down to Illinois. I don't know how much further he's going to go with visits, but I think this weekend could really just kind of put that foot forward for him to potentially make that full commitment to Wisconsin. As for Marshall, he's got a couple other visits that he's doing as well. I believe he took a visit last weekend to Central Florida. I know he's got a couple others after Wisconsin as well. So it'll be interesting if Wisconsin can, kind of stamp in, that this is where you want to be. I know that they did a really good job with this last weekend. Just a lot of recruits that maybe didn't have Wisconsin maybe high on their list are now kind of looking at them a little bit harder. So I think it's only going to get better for Wisconsin. And hopefully, it could be adding Marshall as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with both those. All right, guys, coming up, we're going to talk about an intriguing, at least I think he's intriguing. We'll see what Ben thinks. Outside linebacker prospect coming to Madison as well. Definitely get to that and more. Plenty more coming up on today's show with Ben. But first, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. Just an easy-to-use website. Everyone has sports knowledge. I'm sure Ben could go out there and bang out some futures if you wanted to. If you have a great feel on Major League Baseball, we're seeing some divisional races tighten up as some front runners are falling off, as some some slow starters are turning in. So, you can take $5, do it responsibly, play futures. If you have a read on NFL, who's going to win which division or which conference, this is a great time to do it. Like I said, the website's easy to use. Sports betting information, sports news, it's all right there in one spot. There's a reason we use it at Locked On. And it's just a fun way to, a different way to play with your sports knowledge, enjoy the sports a little bit more, and add a little excitement to the game. Head over to BetOnline. All the latest props and odds are right there. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's show is also brought to you by Rock Auto. Guys, I just had to get some work done on my Jeep. I've told you guys before, the Jeep is always in need of work in 2022. But Rock Auto is far and away the easiest way to do it. You go on their website. You don't ever have to go to a shop anymore, right? You go to the shop, the little parts store, and they don't have what you need. It's some guy who doesn't really care. It's not his fault. It's not his car that he's trying to fix. They may not have the parts you need. It's going to be 30, 50 to 100% more than what you would get on Rock Auto anyway. Save the time, save the money. Get the part cheaper, get it shipped right to you. Incredibly easy, intuitive drop-down menus on their website. I've ordered myself from there with my Jeep Compass. Anything you need, honestly, from doormats to major parts, it's all right there. Perfect for the DIYer. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know we sent you. That's amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Thank you guys again for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every single day. Don't forget, Ultimate Mock Draft starts June 16th on the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. Draft is right around the corner. Johnny Davis. Listen, if you're ever going to listen to mock draft shows as a Wisconsin fan, this is the year to do it. Get in, get some more information on where Johnny Davis is going to go. We got some more podcasts about Johnny Davis coming up as well. And we're going to jump back into the show. Welcome Ben Spierling back in. Continue to chop up another big official visit weekend for football. I want to start here. Jordan Mayer, he was committed to Boston College, outside linebacker, 6'4", 6'3"-ish, 230 pounds, coming to Madison on his official visit. He actually decommitted from Boston College basically right after Wisconsin said, hey, you can come play here. I think that's probably a pretty good sign. What do you like about his game?
He's really explosive. That's kind of the first big thing that stood out with me. His ability just right after the snap just to make that first initial move and just find a way to get after the quarterback or get after where the football is. That's the biggest thing that stands out. So having that quickness, that explosive, good first move, that's what I love about him. And then also it's just, again, that ability to, if a play, kind of develops downfield, never gives up on the play, finds a way to get after wherever the ball is and just make that tackle. He's rangy. He's a little raw as a player, but I think there's just so much upside and just his ability to be that explosive at that height and is just something that I think Wisconsin fans could get really excited about.
Yeah, I agree with that. His film's fun to watch. Not every prospect that you watch is really fun to watch, but his is pretty fun to watch. It's violent. It's explosive, as you said. There's a play 12 yards down the field, there's some type of slip screen. He ran it down as, the 6'4" guy, and you could just see it. It looked like a wildlife video, right? Where the lion's chasing down the little gazelle. You just knew it was going to end badly for the running back. I like him a lot. Yeah, I like your point about a little raw. He plays like a lot of defensive end in his defense, his hands in the dirt, but the physicality's there. The interesting thing about his game to me, and I'm curious what you think on this, because he's explosive, but he's also pretty strong. Like, he's a physical dude. He's not explosive like a Zach Bond, right? He doesn't have that level of twitchiness, but I think he's got the strength to be a guy who could hold up on the edge as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I think he's actually fairly strong for where he's at right now, and that only means, if he were to commit to Wisconsin, get into the program and start doing that correct lifting, it's only going to get better for him. It just seems like a player that not only, like you mentioned, decommits from Boston College and then Wisconsin offers, and he's basically all in. He's coming up for a visit. It sounds like he's going to have a commitment here pretty shortly. Everything's pointing to the Badgers, and I think it's just going to be a really fun player to watch develop and see what he can really be, whether it's out on the edge or outside linebacker, whatever that really looks like. I think it's just a guy where Wisconsin's probably going to scheme up a lot of different things for him. And that's what really excites me, just to see like where he could play. Maybe he'll move around a little bit more, and Jim Leonard's got this fun plan with that. And that's what really excites me about him as a player.
I think Jim Leonard wants to field the defense with outside linebackers and safeties and nothing else, and he's going to find a way to make that work.
It seems like it.
He does have, as you mentioned, he does have another visit coming up. He's going to West Virginia next weekend. Honestly, I cannot, unless West Virginia pulls out some type of silly NIL, like camper boat, Mercedes-Benz package there. I just can't see coming to Madison, liking this staff, which he's already said he doesn't, going to West Virginia and choosing West Virginia over Wisconsin to play defense. Let's jump into Collin Dixon. So Collin Dixon is a receiver coming in from Ohio. I think there's actually some possibility he's an athlete who could. He's been coming in as a receiver. I could see him as a safety as well with his build and his size, but coming in as a receiver, I like the fact that to me, he's not a real twitchy guy. Like, he's not really explosive, but he's a physical dude that's really tough to get down in the open field. What'd you think about with Dixon coming in, and how do you think he fits in?
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. Kind of like, with Justin Taylor, a guy that can play both sides of the football as an athlete. He's exactly that. He has the length to play as a safety, but I think ultimately Wisconsin's gonna kind of fall in with him as a wide receiver. And the big thing, like you mentioned, was his ability to kind of be physical, to be a wide receiver that's really beneficial for blocking, but also has the ability to find space and get open, and has really good hands for a wide receiver as well. I think he's still a little raw as well, but it's a guy that I think really has some good upside. Has a really good frame, good body measurements and everything. So everything kind of points to a wide receiver that really Wisconsin would love to have on their roster.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of he's got like kind of a Marcus Allen build. Not this. Not I don't think he's quite as strong, but he's got that type of build. I think the deep speed is probably what keeps him from being a little higher ranked or a little higher pursued. He doesn't look like a burner on film. He looks fast enough, which, listen, at the college level, not a lot of people are running like legit 4.4s.
Yeah, and Wisconsin really has never really had a wide receiver with that type of speed before, or at least fairly recently. He kind of reminds me a lot, like, too, with like Quintez Cephus. As a guy that has good games, good game speed, has the ability to use his football IQ to find ways to get open. And I think that's kind of along the lines of like what Wisconsin loves about him. He might not be the top athlete, might not have that bursting speed, but his ability to be, to block and to find ways to use his hands and get open, that's what Wisconsin's going to love about him.
Yeah, I think he's a good looking prospect. Definitely not somebody who you like. I think when you look at players, you have to be able to project them that they can win somewhere, right? How can the 5-star kids can win in a lot of ways, right? Speed, route running, quickness, size. I think this is a guy, Collin, who can definitely win with his size, his hands, his ability to shield defenders, break tackles in the open field. Like, you can see at the college level areas where he can win. And I think that's important. Like, to get a 3-star kid out of Ohio. If he was a 5-star kid, he'd go to Ohio State. Let's talk about AJ Tisdale. Another cornerback coming in. What do you think about his game? Is this to me, it feels like we're probably in the driver's seat with him, a 5'11" corner coming in out of Texas, correct? College Station, Texas. Yep. What'd you see when you saw him on film?
I think the really good things that I like about him is his ability to break for the football and kind of locate where it is. I think at times, sometimes he'll get a little bit lost on the field. Like, he has those lapses where he doesn't do the best to always locate it, but when he does, he finds a way to get up there and go after it. He's not going to back down from anyone. With that 5'11" frame, he has the ability to go straight up against guys. He can be physical. He doesn't have the greatest speed, but he has good ways to make up for that too. So I think he's a little bit kind of a prospect that's just going to need a little bit more time. But I like his ability as a player.
You know what this feels like a little bit to me? Like Braden Marshall. We talked about Braden Marshall in the first segment, right? The difference between a high 4 and kind of this mid 3 is Braden Marshall is a lot of those things, but faster. Yeah. And it's not a knock on Tisdale. Tisdale reminds me of a lot of cornerbacks that have come through Madison and been really successful. A guy like Devin Smith, a guy, that type of player. I think he seems like a really solid prospect. I think he's physical on film. He's definitely not afraid to come up and hit somebody. I agree with your point where it looks at times he gets a little lost in coverage. And the top end speed doesn't quite seem to be there for him. I want to kind of finish talking about this group and the first group with this question to you. It's a two-parter. What would Wisconsin need to do on this weekend and not get commits this weekend, but out of this group, how many of these commits would have to commit for this to be a successful recruiting weekend for you? And is there one of these guys, if you had to pick just one, that is a must get?
Yeah. I think realistically, they're in really good shape for a lot of these guys. So I'm going to say you're probably looking at about 4 to 6.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a group where you're going to see potentially quite a few commitments. Maybe not all the way up to 6. I'm going to say like 5 is probably like the number. But I think you have a good spot for Howard, Tisdale, Mayer, Dixon, and then it's kind of come down to Marshall. I think that's the number one player you're going to have to target. I know that they've been talking with Ojero, the corner out of Georgia. So
Oh yeah, I almost forgot he's coming up as well. Yep.
Yeah, so he's a player to watch as well. It doesn't seem like he's completely sold either, but it could be a situation where like Nikhil Gardner came in last week, not with maybe high expectations of like what Wisconsin really was as a program, but left thinking about it a little bit more. So it might be another player like that where you're going to keep your eye on. So I think Marshall's the number one guy that you're probably going to want to go after and kind of target in this group. I think just with him being that, high 3-star, 4-star type corner and just that ability that he has right now, that's the type of player that you're going to want to kind of make that emphasis for.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difference maker. I agree with you there. Marshall's the guy in this group that if you can get him, he's a difference maker, even though some of the other guys we talked about we really like. Coming up with Ben, we're going to keep him on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about this recruiting class in general, maybe have him pick out a player that he thinks is most underranked. You're definitely going to want to stick around for that. But first, today's show is brought to you. And again, guys, I really appreciate everybody coming on to join this, or everybody listening, everybody tuning in. We've had a lot of good success lately, and it's because we've been able to bring people like Ben on the show that give really good perspectives on things. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar remains just one of my best sources for just a quick and simple and easy and healthy nutritional sidekick. I throw it in my backpack, go to the gym, 100% pure chocolate, 20 grams of protein. It's just a fantastic way to eat healthy and not feel like it's a chore. I've told you guys a bunch of times, it's not hyperbole. My kids raid my Built Bar cabinet because they think it's candy. And honestly, I kind of let them because it's like a dad win. They're eating healthy. And that's the type of cook I am. It's either that or I'd probably end up making them who only knows what. So Built Bar has not only been good for me, it's been good for my dad's skills. My kids eat better because of it. Go to Built.com. We have a great offer for you as well. You can use this over and over again to continue to get good prices on it. Go to Built.com, promo code LOCK15. That's LOCKED15. Promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. It's promo code LOCK15 for 15 off at Built.com. You're not going to regret it. And we're going to bring Ben back on the show. Ben, before we finish off the segment, as always, you're doing awesome work out there, you and Dylan, among many, many really talented, smart Badger fans everywhere, doing tons of great stuff. And one of the biggest goals of this show is always to build that community, get more voices out there. Where can people find what you're doing and your work, and how can they connect to you guys?
Yeah, you can find me specifically on Twitter at BennyBoy615. Otherwise, follow us on Wisconsin Sports Heroics, which is WI Sports Heroics. We have all sorts of Badger content, football, basketball. We'll even get into some of the other sports as well, like volleyball had such great success this last year. So we're kind of dipping our toes in a lot of different sports there, but we also cover all different Wisconsin sports, your Packers, Badgers, Brewers, Bucks, everything about it.
It's a one-stop shop.
Yes, it is.
No, that's awesome. And I think at some point in the future, I'm coming on with you guys to do on your side to kind of work some season preview stuff. So I'm excited to get over there and collab with you guys further.
Yeah, we're really excited to just be able to have more people, like you said, and just keep building this community.
No, that's what it's about, man. And we'll put in every show that we do with you guys, we put your stuff in our show link as well, so people can find you easy. I want to finish up on this segment here. We talked about it. I think you and I talked about it last time you were on the show, actually, with the recruiting class kind of being off to a bit of a slow start. Or maybe that's when we did our collab with you and Dylan, but it's sped up a little bit. June hit. We've had a couple weeks of official visits. do you like where the momentum in the class is headed now? Does it feel like with the recruiting staff in place, this is more what it should be like? Or do you feel like we're still a little behind the curve in 2023?
I think we're in a much better spot than when we were, 2 months ago. There's a lot of guys within these first 2 weekends here for June, recruiting wise, that are coming in, really have some interest in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin has shown the love. And I think that's going to continue this weekend as well. So it's in a much better spot than where it was. I think there's a few positions that are, and a few players that we're going to have to keep an eye on to see, where they ultimately fall. But I think Wisconsin has put themselves in a much better spot, and they're still bringing in and looking at other talent. I know, like, they've had their camps as well that have been happening. They got their advanced camps and stuff coming up as well, and they've been throwing out a few offers, whether it's guys for the future or even guys in the 2023 class. So there's definitely some upside and still opportunities for Wisconsin to bring in guys, buying into the system, and just finding talent that's going to fit this roster.
Yeah, it feels like it's the recruiting momentum has been gearing up and up and up, and it's just great to see, quite frankly. How about looking at the current commits in the 2023 class? Is there a guy you can pick out that you think is clearly underrated? Maybe not the best of the group, but who is most overlooked out of our current verbal commits?
I don't know if he's overlooked, but I think there just seems to be more and more things that I'm really liking about her. It's Tyler Janze.
Yes.
Dude is like a lot bigger. When he was in for this last weekend and, standing next to Tackett Curtis and, posing up together. And I didn't realize just how big he actually really is. And Tackett Curtis is a big guy as well, with his size and everything. So it's a guy that really excites me. And I think if they're able to bring in Tackett Curtis as well, and pair him up with Janze, talk about a duo that could just wreak some havoc. And I think his ability for not only being as strong as he is, he has some quickness that will have to get a little bit better. But I think it's just a player that it's the prototypical linebacker that's going to come into Wisconsin, and he's going to find a way to make an impact pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, and I had John Garcia from Sports Illustrated on the show, and he talked about Janze, and he was definitely higher on him than the industry standard is. And I think with Janze too, part of it is he's been committed for a while. There's a term in baseball called prospect fatigue, where the guy's been in the minors for a while, and even though he's really good, you're just kind of like, all right, what's the next best thing? Who's the next kid? I like Janze a lot. I think he's a super solid recruit. And I agree, seeing him paired up next to Tackett, and then you think if they get Mayer too, that's a pretty formidable trio of linebacker recruits to bring into the system. I want to finish on this one. Out of the last 2 weekends, right? Because you and I haven't had a chance to really talk about the June 3rd weekend. Let's take Tackett Curtis out of it, because I think he's the obvious consensus 4 to 5 star kid. Who's the biggest upside player from the last 2 weekends that the Badgers have a chance at that isn't named Tackett Curtis? I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't let you prep for this one.
That's okay. I'm going to go Joe Procker, the tackle out of Tennessee. There's a lot to like about him. He's a pretty raw player. Hasn't been playing football for a long time. Really good frame already, 6'6", 310 pounds. And it just seems like a dude that not only likes, could fit right in with this offensive line group, but seems to be a football player that has a lot more upside, than where he's currently at. He's a pretty high 3-star as well. So it's not that he's going, unnoticed or anything like that. But I think he's the type of player that Wisconsin would love to just add an extra, offensive lineman in this group. I think, you have your first commit with James Duran. And I think Crocker currently has a prediction for Wisconsin right now on 24/7 Sports. So things are pointing in the right direction. The big thing is he's got a visit coming up with Michigan State. It's going to be a little bit interesting. They seem to have quite a slew of offensive linemen, going out for these visits. So maybe Wisconsin says, look, you're our priority right now for offensive linemen. And if this is it, we're going to be happy to have you. So I think it's a good spot for where he's at. And I really just like his ability. He moves really well. And he's only getting better with his footwork and his speed. again, he's a raw
Yeah.
prospect. There's still a lot of things that he's going to have to get better at. But I think with his ability to come in, learn, I think he's a guy that Wisconsin could have, again, another staple at offensive tackle.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, man. I mean, to me, it'd either be Crocker or White, the in-state running back, Nate White, who is just electric. But when you watch Crocker, to your point, you can see the ball of clay. Like, he has a lot of weight. He has a lot of weight he's still going to put on. And right now he's smalling people. He just is just throwing him around the field, playing till the whistle. And by the way, if Bob Bostad likes him, I kind of like him too. He's just earned that type of benefit of the doubt for me. Ben, thank you again so much for jumping on the show. Appreciate everybody who takes the time to listen. And again, the goal is always to build a community. So make sure you go check out Wisconsin Sports Heroics. Check out Ben. Ben's work and what they're doing. And again, it's not just Badger stuff there. They're a one-stop shop. I know there's a ton of fans that listen to this show who are also Packers fans, Bucks fans, Brewers fans. It's a one-stop shop to find all of that. So go check them out for sure. Ben, anything else you want to say? Just throw anything else out there for yourself?
No, I think you're covering it, man. I appreciate you again for having me. And again, we're gearing up here for football. We're getting really excited. I'm a person that really dives in with recruiting and gets really excited about the next guys that are coming in for Wisconsin football. So more to come, and looking forward for the season coming around.
That's it, man. It's coming quick. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. If you like the show, leave a like, subscribe, leave a review. All that stuff's awesome. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, on Wisconsin.